morning and welcome to this additional council meeting. Item 1, welcome to country. Councillor Greg James is an apology, so we won't have that. Item 2, acknowledgement. We, Greater Shepparton City Council, acknowledge the Yorta peoples of the land which now comprises Greater Shepparton. We pay our respect to their tribal elders, we celebrate their continuing culture, and we acknowledge the memory of their ancestors. Item 3, privacy notice. This meeting is being streamed live via our Facebook page and made available for public access on our website along with the official minutes of this meeting. All care is taken to maintain your privacy. However, as a visitor in the public gallery, it is assumed that your consent is given in the event that your image is broadcast to the public. It is also assumed that your consent is given to the use and disclosure of any information that you share at the meeting, including personal or sensitive information, to any person who accesses those recordings or minutes, and we welcome members in the public gallery this morning. Item 4, governance principles. Council considers that the recommendations contained in the agenda gives effect to the overarching governance principles stated in section 9.2 of the Local Government Act 2020. These principles are as followed, and councillors, they are listed 1 to 9 on page 5 of the agenda. We go to page 6 of the agenda, item 5, apologies. Councillors, do we have an apology this morning?
Yeah, I'd like to note the apology of Councillor Greg James this morning.
Thank you, Councillor Spinks. Can I have someone second that?
I'll second that, Mayor Salvi.
Thank you, Councillor Dobson. All in favour? Carried. Item 6, declarations of conflict of interest. Councillors, do we have any conflicts this morning? No, very good. Councillors, we now go to page 7, item 7.1, recommendation to award contract number 2343 Waste Services contract. There is a recommendation. Can I please have a councillor put that forward as a motion?
I'd like to put that forward, Mayor Salvi.
Thank you, Councillor Brophy. Can I please have a councillor second that motion?
I'll second that motion. Thank you, Mayor Salvi.
Councillor Brophy.
Would you like me to read out the...
You actually need to move.
Yes.
What you were going to move, so...
Thank you, I'll do that.
Yeah, which is not... Yeah, so you need to move.
Recommendation?
Yeah, so before I get a seconder, so I'll start with you first before I come to you, Councillor Dobson. You obviously still want to move the motion?
I will still move the motion.
What would you like to move?
Okay, that the recommendation, and I will read it out in its entirety, that Council 1, award tender number 2343 Curbside Waste Services to A, Peterfoot Waste Collection for provision of contract 2343-01 collection services for the initial term of 7.5 years with an option to extend for a further 7.5 years. B, Cleanaway for the provision of contract 2343-02 recyclables, acceptance and processing services for the initial term of 7.5 years with an option to extend for a further 7.5 years. C, Cleanaway for the provision of contract 2343-03 glass acceptance and processing services for the initial term of 7.5 years with an option to extend for a further 7.5 years. D, Biomix for the provision of contract 2343-04 food, organics, garden organics, FOGO, acceptance and processing services for the initial term of 7.5 years with an option to extend for a further 7.5 years. And E, Peterfoot Waste Collection for the provision of the contract 2343-05 bulk transport services for the initial term of 7.5 years with an option to extend for a further 7.5 years. And the 2, note that the contract term is for a period of 7.5 years with a 7.5-year extension option at Council's discretion. The estimated contract value for 1 year is $6,239,379, excluding GST, and the estimated contract value over the full term of the contract term of 15 years is $126,787,442, excluding GST. 3, approve a budget allocation of $80,000, excluding GST, per annum over the term of the contract to support contract management and monitoring of operational performance. And 4, authorise the Chief Executive Officer to enter negotiations and execute the contract documents as required and approve any contract extension as deemed appropriate.
Thank you, Councillor Brophy. Can I have a councillor second that motion?
I'll second that motion, Mayor Salvi.
Thank you, Councillor Dobson. Councillor Brophy, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Salvi. I'll just get my breath. Okay. Thank you. Firstly, a clarification can I make, please, from in March 2023 at the ordinary council meeting, in highlighting and subsequently deferring the decision on the Hume collaborative waste tendering contracts, in stipulating that this was a massive, massive contract and the biggest that this current council will ever see before us, I said that it was upwards of $75 million plus. Now that is correct. However, I could have said $50 million plus or $100 million plus and still would have been within the ballpark. Unfortunately, media and others took the 75 million as being the correct figure. That is not correct. It had not factored a number of variants, including compounded CPI increases, tonnage increases, etc. Incredulous as it might seem, we did not know the complete cost of the previous tender, although we were at the time deciding on whether to accept a tender and that process. I apologise for any confusion, and it might have occurred as we're not comparing apples with apples here. In fact, we're not even comparing apples with oranges in that case. Under commercial and confidence and councillors' code of conduct, we cannot state that the points that are scored, nor the ranking of the tenderers, nor the monetary figures that are attributed to this tender. Therefore, this won't be particular comments. The evaluation process was undertaken with strict adherence to probity and procurement protocols as set out in the pre-approved procurement and probity plans endorsed by Council. By the tendering process, this contract is seeking to achieve the following outcomes: providing reliable waste and recycling services, introducing service enhancement to contribute to the delivery of state government recycling Victoria policy and meet community expectations, developing a robust local waste and recycling industry, improving performance and outcomes for service delivery, customer service, reporting and the environment, encouraging new infrastructure growth and investment in the regions, maximising diversion from landfill, increasing local employment generation, including those with barriers to work and social enterprise. This contract will ensure that Council get the best value and fit-for-purpose services to our community now and into the future over the initial period of 7.5 years, with an option of an extension of 7.5 years. We believe that the positive economical outcome has been achieved by undertaking this process and will meet the needs of the community, as well as create a circular economic opportunities within waste and resource recovery industry. All along, I and a number of other councillors have pushed to achieve the best outcome for our ratepayers in the region. This tender process, I believe, achieves both. In not adopting the previous collaborative tender process and recommendations, we were able to undertake learnings from that particular process and apply those learnings to improve the competitiveness of this process, one that was rigorous, comprehensive, and again, with strong probity. Taking into the tendering process and weighting accordingly were components such as experience and performance, capacity and capability, methodology, environmental sustainability, benefit to the local community, and of course price. I know that some councillors were concerned with the cost of extending the current contract and the cost of entering into a new tendering process. However, I believe the outcome of this will be economically and serviceability to the betterment of our municipality. The recommendation to make it clear provides one company to collect all forms of residential waste and includes a contract regarding bulk transport. Another company has been recommended to process the recyclables and glass waste, with a third company to be contracted to process the FOGO or green waste. Well done to the Council, the Director of Infrastructure, his team and the panel who applied the tender process. A big job, but one that will benefit our region for many years to come. So courage to those councillors who were determined to seek further clarification last March and to then reject in April the collaborative tender in favour of supporting this tendering process. Some councillors here today have queried the figures, calculations and the process of this tender, and they have their right to do that in due diligence, which is good. I would not chastise or ridicule their right to do so, as I had my right last year. However, I do recall myself and other councillors 12 months ago being called unprofessional, not mature enough, reckless and acting like cowboys because we stood up against something we did not believe was the best for our community. I maintain that what I and other councillors did last year was in the best interests of Greater Shepparton. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brophy. Councillor Dobson, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, I would, and thank you, Councillor Brophy, for your introduction of this recommendation. Firstly, I'd like to offer my congratulations to Gary and his team, and especially the waste management team, and please pass on my personal thanks to Liam and his group, a really professional attitude towards it. It's given me, as a councillor, plenty of confidence, so thanks, Gary. I have noted that part of the process included legal representation of the highest order at all times, and that was obviously mandatory. Probity and procurement terms were adhered to, and we had an independent chair. Now, when you get all those factors put in together and we come along to identify or vote on the end result, I, as a councillor, can be given a lot of confidence in saying that the process, as far as I'm concerned, Mayor Sarli, was above reproach. And especially about the cross-checking of applicants, I thought there was, that was a great idea. So we know exactly who we're dealing with, and it's a great idea. We now live in a changing world in respect to waste management, and the government is telling us that by 2030, the circular economy has got to be brought into being, and I fully agree with that. This council, in its wisdom, and I agree with that, have suggested that we go early, and that's why we started the circular economy process in Greater Shepparton in the last couple of years. And I really do think that while the community is having some of the community is having some some hesitancy about some of the aspects of our waste management process, I believe in the long term, I think we're going in the right way, because we've got to get our waste management right. I believe this tender is part of that process. So I'd just like to congratulate the community on the acceptance of the circular economy process, and in particular waste management. I think it's very important. So I just ask the community if they continue doing what they're doing now and improving all the time, and don't be too afraid out in the public area of asking questions of myself, any other councillor, or indeed the council itself. We're here to help. We're here to get the process done to the best of our ability. So again, in closing, congratulations on the process. I, as people would know, at the first attempt at getting this done, I voted in favour of the then motion. That's water under the bridge now. I fully endorse what we've got here today, and I'm going to ask all councillors to be the same.
Thank you, Councillor Dobson. Are there any councillors that would like to speak against the motion? Any councillors that would like to speak for the motion? Councillor Abdullah.
Thank you. So I'll start by saying that I am comfortable supporting the officer's recommendation based on the information that is in front of me and based on the responses to my subsequent queries and a follow-up meeting with the Director of Infrastructure. I am mindful of the changes in many aspects of the tender process since the last tender process was abandoned in 2023. At this stage, I am very clear that any comparison between the two processes and outcomes is difficult and is not relevant as such. In 2023, the recommendation from a collaborative process based on the tender responses received, as per the officers, was the best option for the council, and in my opinion, would have been the right decision at that point in time. So I stand by my previous position for 2023. However, this is 2024, and the current recommendation and the motion in front of us is based on the processes and responses that we have received in this round. And in 2024, I believe that the recommendation I'm supportive of the recommendation because it's based on the processes and responses. Who knows if this decision is delayed this year for another year, what would be the outcome? The outcomes could be different. So we have to bear that in mind. There have been changes in the processes since last time. There were additional steps that were included, such as in-person interviews and site visits, and they were therefore enhancing the understanding of these submissions, of these tender submissions, and getting a better demonstration of evidence of submissions, of submission responses. There were differences in tender responses and the quality of submissions. There were differences in prices and processes. So things did not remain static. A lot has changed. And in the basis of that changed scenario and the information that is in front of me, I am satisfied. I'm satisfied with the probity and compliance aspects of the process. I have used my due diligence to assess the recommendation. I'm satisfied with the information that I asked for and that was provided. And I'm satisfied with the information that was not provided because of the logic, such as individual tender prices that could not be provided to us because of their commercial in confidence nature. And I do agree with that. So on this basis, I support the motion in front of us. I also want to congratulate our Director Infrastructure and the whole team in demonstrating a very high level of professional integrity in this process. And I'm pleased with the outcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Abdullah. Are there any other councillors that would like to speak to the motion? Councillor Adam? Oh,
No.
Councillor Adam?
No, you had your hand up first.
Second.
Councillor Adam?
Over the point?
Yep.
All right, you win. Thank you, Ms. Ali. As we're all aware, and as other councillors have referred to, it's been a long and somewhat frustrating process that brings us here today with another recommendation before us to consider. In 2022, this council unanimously resolved to be part of the Resource Recovery Collective Hume Tender Award. This collective tender process was considered by councillors to be the best option in assessing potential tenderers for one of, if not the most significant financial contract that this or any other Greater Shepparton Council has been responsible for. The collective tender process concluded with the majority of councillors deciding to reject its recommendations, abandon the process and pursue a new internal tender process as quickly as possible beyond that decision date. After many, many months and a rigorous process, we now have another recommendation for consideration before us today. After reading the information and attending verbal briefings that were made available to us as councillors, I have no reason to doubt the validity and relative accuracy of the calculations that resulted in the recommendations before us today. I say relative accuracy as exact costs may vary during the contract period due to periodic changes in the volumes of waste needed to be collected and processed. I have full confidence in the expertise and competency of our internal staff entrusted to facilitate such a complex tender process. Very importantly, though, I had the same level of confidence in the recommendation that was presented by the equally professional and competent Hume Collective process last year. The time that elapsed between the two processes has evidently resulted in an eventually better costing and charge structure, even after considering the extra cost of conducting our own tender process and other costs associated with the delay. I thank our team for the work they've done and look forward to Council passing this motion without any further delay, preventing potential additional financial implications that may occur. Thank you.
Adam, are there any other councillors that would like to speak to the motion? Councillor Summer?
Thank you. As stated, waste is one of our core responsibilities. Here we are. It drives industry, supports innovation, diverts waste from landfill, creates local jobs, and has the capacity to inject millions of dollars into our local economy. I just want to applaud the councillors for our due diligence that we've shown in considering this tender. This is our largest and longest contract, as stated, and it may extend for up to 15 years, so it's certainly worthy of strong scrutiny, which we have proven to have done. It's probably prudent to mention that we do continue to have options to change the frequency of collection, just in case the public were thinking that this were all locked in. We changed it last time and could do that again if we have an appetite to review frequency. Councillors did proceed with the joint Hume tender with the best of intentions. But ultimately, the majority of councillors felt that the process, which included 13 other councils, was too broad for the specific needs of our region. So despite enormous pressure to conform to the Hume tender, councillors had the courage to bring the tender back in-house. The sky didn't fall, excess costs were nowhere near levels predicted, and significant savings have been made. I believe the majority of councillors are a lot more comfortable with this outcome than we were before, so I support the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Summer. Are there any other councillors that would like to speak to the motion? Councillor Spinks.
Thank you, Mayor Sally. I congratulate each of my councillors, fellow councillors who have spoken so articulately on this matter this morning. I have no prepared notes. I'm just going to speak off the cuff as always, but as I tend to do. And just to say for the community who may be wondering about how this process has been a very extensive and arguably drawn out process, there's good reason for that as we've walked through each step of the process to make sure that we got it right. My only discomfort with this, and it is not a discomfort with approving this tender outcome today, but in that such a different outcome has been achieved in 12 months. And that only stems from a discomfort in if a year ago we were told this was the best outcome, and a year later we were provided with what is now being proposed as the best outcome. At what point do you stop striving for a best outcome? And I think that the way I sit in comfort with that discomfort is from recognising the democratic process that occurs around this table. Ultimately, for better or worse, a year ago there was not a majority of councillors that felt comfortable with moving ahead with the contract in front of us and the decision that was in front of us at the time. Now, 12 months later, we have to face the decision that is in front of us in its entirety, and ultimately any discomfort that was felt at the previous decision, whether that was with process or outcome, becomes irrelevant, because all we can deal with is the process, the decision that is in front of us right now around the tender process that has been gone through. Ultimately, we know that each time, if we were to strive for best, whatever that looks like, it would incur costs to our ratepayers, and it would incur further demands to our council staff and our organisation. And we have to decide at what point are we comfortable. And if today the majority are, then that is the democratic process in action. So I myself am comfortable with this outcome. I congratulate the successful tenderers. I congratulate all involved in the tender process. And I think that this is certainly a good enough outcome for our ratepayers, and I think it will deliver what it is that we are supposed to deliver as one of our very core services. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Spinks. Any other councillors like to speak to the motion? Councillor Ladson.
Thank you, Mayor Sally. I'd like to echo my fellow councillors' praise of our council team, particularly the Director of Infrastructure. Nice, Gary. Thank you, Mayor Sally.
Sure it is.
Thank you, Councillor Ladson. Before I go to closing comments, obviously a lot's been said today, and I do obviously want to echo the comments that have been made positively towards Gary and the infrastructure team. Obviously it has been a long process. It's hard to believe that we were here 12 months ago effectively working through this. But as it's already been mentioned, the approach last year was the Hume tender approach, which obviously was regarding 13 councils effectively coming together to get, I guess, what would be seen as the best outcome for Greater Shepparton. But obviously, decisions were made last year, as it's been highlighted, to bring that back inside and undertake the process internally, which effectively focuses on what is the best outcome for Greater Shepparton's community and our waste needs. And obviously a lot has been said regarding costs and different factors, and I guess the closing comment that I want to make most importantly is this is a fit for purpose waste service for Greater Shepparton, which is the first and foremost most important part, but also the recommendation that's in front of us gives greater service and economical outcomes for our community. And I think that needs to be highlighted, because that is the main factor of, I think, what we're all striving to achieve. And I think this recommendation in front of us delivers great outcomes for our community's waste needs. And that's all from me. Councillor Brophy, any closing comments?
Thank you, Mayor Sally. Just very briefly. Firstly, I applaud fellow councillors for all the comments that were made here today. I think they've all been very positive and in the right spirit in going forward with this I think everyone's right, this is the biggest contract by an awful long way that we have to, and it does weigh heavily on all of us, as it has for the whole process, from the moment that we even looked at the original Hume tendering process. And we're going back a couple of years ago now, quite a few years. And so to have had all that on us for the whole period of time has taken quite a toll on, and sleepless nights for a number of people, including, I'm sure, council staff as well. So it's been a long process there. Again, I still believe that it is the best outcome, or a better outcome for our community at this particular point in time, as was raised there. What is the best outcome? It's obviously, it can be always a better outcome. So I think the best outcome, can be subjective, whereas a better outcome, I think we've shown in the 12-month period. And I think going down this particular process, as you highlighted there, fit for purpose, I think we're in a very comfortable space in terms of this recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Brophy. If there's nothing else, councillors, we'll now go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried, unopposed. Councillors, we now go to page 17 of the agenda, item 8, meeting, which I will do at 10:26 a.m. Is it?